board are?
Megan J. Cochran.
Aaron Murphy.
Todd Foltz.
Okay, also in attendance this evening, we have from legal, Susan Johnson-Velez, and from development, Stephen Eister. There are some procedural rules that we need to follow. When your case number and petitioner's name are called, please approach the podium. When you approach the podium, please state your name, address, and whether or not you've been sworn in. It may seem pretty obvious, but that's very important for it to be on the record. The petitioner or his agent will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. All other persons or participants wishing to speak will have 3 minutes. Then the petitioner will have an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal if needed. The time periods as stated will be kept by the board. Any information such as pictures or plans that have not previously been submitted as part of the petition and that you intend to submit for consideration in support of your petition must be individually presented and accepted by the board. After acceptance by the board, you must submit the item to staff for it to be entered as part of the permanent record. The board bases its decision on competent and substantial evidence which are submitted and which meets the criteria required by the city's code of ordinances. Please be sure to clearly state your hardship criteria during your presentation. A majority of the board is needed to approve your variance. The variance granted by the board will be only for what is shown on the site plan and will be in compliance with any terms or conditions stated by the board. All other city codes will need to be met. If the case is approved, your variance will expire 2 years from the date of the decision. If your case is continued, it will either be continued to next month's agenda, which will be September 9th, or to the next available position on upcoming agenda. If the case is denied, you may wish to have the Variance Review Board's decision appealed by City Council. You must file a petition for the review of the board's decision within 14 days of the board's written decision. You will not be able to pull any permits until the 14-day review period has passed. Your cooperation in ensuring this meeting is run smoothly is greatly appreciated. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting from the July VRB board meeting?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The meeting passes. Susan, do you have any
Yes.
questions for the board?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, at this time, I'd like to ask if any board member has any conflicts of interest with respect to any matter on the agenda this evening.
No.
No, ma'am.
Let the record reflect that all board members have indicated in the negative. And now, I would like to ask if any board members have had any ex parte communications with anyone with respect to any matter on the agenda this evening.
No.
Again, let the record reflect all board members have indicated in the negative. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Eister, do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
Good evening, Board. There is one change to the agenda this evening. VRB-25-40 did not complete notice, and they will not be heard tonight.
Okay, thank you. And I want to swear the audience in.
Will everyone please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
Okay. Ready for the first case? And just for clarification, we have 4 members present. Do you want to explain that? Okay, oh. Okay, that's a change in the rules. Perfect. Thank you. I'm sorry, Stephen, go ahead.
Good evening, Board. The first case on the agenda tonight is VRB-25-47. The owner is Giselle Ramirez and Adil Tamayo. The applicant is Luisa Alonzo. The property address is 816 West 114th Avenue. The zoning is residential single family, RS 60. The request is to reduce the side setback from 7 feet to 3 feet 2 inches and reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 13 feet 5 inches. Code section and reference is section 27-156, table 4-2, schedule of area, height, bulk, and placement regulations for RS 60 district setbacks are 25 feet from the front, 20 feet rear, and 7 feet on the sides. There is a previous action of a code case for an accessory structure. This is the property in reference. The accessory structure here in the bottom corner is not part of this variance request. It is separate from the primary structure setbacks that are being looked at tonight. So the blue is the side setback that is going from 7 to 3.2 feet here at the closest point. And then this is the rear setback, which is going from 20 to 13.5 feet. So when looking at the property, the front of the property is along here. This is considered the side of the property. The shortest side is the front. Just the orientation of the house does not determine the way of how the yards are laid out. This is a street view of the house. Natural resources found it consistent with conditions. The improvements have been existing. Transportation, wastewater, water, right-of-way, found it consistent with conditions. No portion of a permanent structure can be within the utility easement, including but not limited to footers and overhangs. Stormwater found it consistent, and then TECO had no comment as of 7/28/2025. This is the criteria for the Variance Review Board, and I'll be available for any comments, questions, or concerns.
Thank you, sir. Is petitioner here?
Hello, how are you guys doing tonight? Okay, so basically, I'm
Wait,
requesting.
wait. Name, address, and have you been sworn in?
Oh, sorry. Alida Javier Tamayo, address is 816 West 114th Avenue, Tampa, Florida 33612.
And were you sworn in?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, so the request that we're looking for is to reduce the side yard setback from 7 feet to 3 feet and 2 inches, and rear yard setback 20 feet to 13 feet and 5 inches. So I guess some of the justifications were it's efficient for the land use, it allows for practical and functional building layout given the site constraints, neighborhood compliability, the sign maintains the scale, the appearance, character, and surrounding of the properties. No adverse impacts. So the one that's on the side of the house has been there for, I believe, like over 10 years. I would say like 14, and we never had any complaints from any of the neighbors. Does not obstruct their view, their sunlight, preserves drainage patterns and utility access, maintains adequate space for emergency access. The request reduction is limited in scope and does not compromise public health, safety, or welfare. So, yep.
Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Questions from the board? I know I've got a bunch. So what is existing here? What are you adding, and what brought this on? And I bet Stephen's going to fill us in on that.
I'm just gonna bring up the site plan for the board to be able to review. So everything here hatched in the gray that's angled, that is marked as cover and cover, those are existing, and that's what they are trying to request as part of this variance.
This cover was with the house when originally purchased, so it's only the.
So the non-compliance is existing, and we're just trying to bring it into.
That is correct. So the code case is on the accessory structure in the rear, which is not part of this request at all, but because it is active, it's on the presentation. The covers here and here are existing and have been existing for, via like my natural resources review, for about 10 years or longer. And then this variance will also have the condition of the house is ever demolished. The variance will go away because this is tied directly to the placement of the existing structure that's there. Because it's not orient, yeah.
Okay, and
Thank you.
can you point out on the plan where those setbacks are? It looks like the house is set way far back on the lot. Is that true? It is.
Correct. The house is set back 33 feet from the front property line.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay, any other questions?
I'm not seeing the mouse.
Anybody have any questions?
Do you have any photos of those, the coverings? The
Any
two
what, sorry?
Photos?
Voters?
Photos,
Pictures.
Pictures.
Oh, that should have, I thought they uploaded all that, because we were paying a company to do all of this and upload all the variants, which was the person that was getting us the permits for all of it. And long story short, we ended up having to come do it ourselves. The Lisa, the person on there, is the one that we contracted. But those are the only pictures that are uploaded to there?
Yes.
Well, yeah, then,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No further questions from the board?
Yeah, I do. On the side yard setback, it's 3 feet 2 inches from the fence line. Is there a gate or is it a connecting fence? Is it closed off?
no, it's just a wooden fence. The neighbors are family.
So there's a wooded fence that goes right down. that
Yeah,
side.
regular 6 feet.
And it's 3 feet 2 inches from the face of the covered opening to the fence,
From the roof.
from the roof of the covered opening. to
Yeah,
the fence. So
the-
there's actually a little more space to where if there's a vertical and there's something holding up the cover. I
Yeah,
assume.
the 4x4 on the side, yeah.
So there's a little more space. So I'm
Yeah.
just thinking for health and safety welfare, I wanna make sure that firefighters, say they had to get back to the back of your property, could get past there.
Oh, there's no cover. There's like more than 5 feet probably. Like, it's all open. So there's like a 4x4 on that corner, maybe 3 more 4x4s.
So it's all open air, it's not screened in? It's
No,
just-
no,
it's
that's,
just an
it's,
overhang.
yeah, it's all open. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's just hard to see from,
Yeah, sorry, I thought they would have uploaded.
gotcha.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this request? Seeing none, you have rebuttal time if you would like to add anything to your presentation.
Sorry?
I said if you need to add anything
Oh.
to the presentation, you have rebuttal time.
No, I think that's all. And the only thing they did submit was for that, for the rear setback of the side, not the accessory.
Mhm.
That's the only thing they submitted in this variance, correct? Because they told me it would be all in one. So.
The variance,
It's, correct me if I'm wrong, this is just for the covered patios, both of them, because the one on the rear is where you're getting the 13.5 feet from?
Correct. So this variance is for the
Yes.
covers only that are attached to the main structure. The accessory structure is 3 feet 7 inches from the back and 5'8" from the, or the 5'8" from the rear and 3.7 from the side. So it doesn't need any setback
I was
reductions.
gonna say that
Yeah.
meets setback requirements.
So that meets code. So this is purely for the primary
So
structure.
this meets code? Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
It does. Okay, we'll close the public hearing and hear from the board. I think the way that the house is situated on this lot is what makes it unique. It certainly could have been built forward, but we didn't have any say in that matter, and I'm sure this gentleman didn't either. I don't think that the setback requirements are, the request is too extreme. And my only question is, do we want to make sure that those covered areas stay open? Or is that a concern of the board?
I don't see it, especially in the back here. I mean, it's a corner
Okay.
lot. It doesn't, I don't know, there's plenty of room to get around the back from both sides.
I don't disagree with you. Would you like to make that in the form of
Sure,
a
I'll
motion,
go
sir?
ahead. Thank you. All right. I move that the variance request for case VRB 25-47 for property located at 816 West 114th Avenue, be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in the side yard setback from 7 foot to 3 foot 2 inches, and a reduction in the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 13 foot 5 inches. Upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence to the record that this public hearing, unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that it's a corner lot. What's there has been there for a very long time. It's not affecting neighbors, and there's no public safety hazard.
We have a motion, is there a second? Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor of the motion as stated signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Your motion passes, Mr. Tamayo.
Thank you guys so much. You guys have a great night.
You
Thank
welcome.
You too.
So this is all right? We have to do no further actions? Okay.
Speak to Stephen, he'll fill you in on anything that needs to happen.
Okay. Thank you, guys. You guys have a great night.
Okay, next case.
The next case on the agenda is VRB 25-48. The owner is Andrew, and the applicant is James Manning. The property address is 3412 West Plumera Avenue. The zoning is residential, single family, RS50. The request is to reduce the rear yard pool setback from 5 feet to 2 feet. And then the code section is in-ground pools. Swimming pools shall be located a minimum of 5 feet from any side or rear lot line and no closer to the corner lot than the corner yard setback established in section 27-156, table 4-2 for the underlining zoning district as measured from water's edge. This is a aerial of the house. This is the property in question. So you can see, and we're going to zoom in on this next slide. This is a zoom in of the pool. There is a 2-foot setback here from the water's edge to the property line. These are photos of the existing layout of how it is currently with pavers and a small screened patio area. Natural resources found it consistent with conditions. They had no issues. Transportation, wastewater, found it both consistent. Water found it consistent with condition. The scope of the variance does not impact existing water infrastructure. Right-of-way found it consistent, and then stormwater found it consistent with conditions and outlining all the requirements that will need to be met at the time of permitting. And then TICO found it consistent with conditions, and that memo was provided to you. This is the variance review criteria, and then I'll be available for comments, questions, or concerns. And then I'll go back to the site plan as well for your reference.
Good evening. So my name is Andrew Breitberg. My address is 3412 West Palmyra Ave, Tampa, Florida 33629, and I have been sworn in.
Thank you.
I'm James Manning, the agent, pool contractor, 508 Siobhan Court, 33613.
You've been sworn in? Have you been sworn in? Have you been sworn in?
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
yes, I have.
Thank you. Okay.
So I bought this property approximately 11 years ago, and with it came with a large screened-in lanai in the back. It's pavered on the bottom, and there's more pavers around the back side of the house and along both sides as a pavered walkway. So it's fair to say there's extensive pavers throughout the entire property. Even then, I had visions of eventually putting in a pool. I now have two children, 2 and 4. We're getting to that age, and they're taking swim lessons, and I'd like to put in a pool back there. My neighbors have similar pools in their backyards, adjacent and catty-corner to mine in the back. So what we were proposing to do is to put a pool in and have it be 3 feet setback from the house itself, 10-foot wide pool, and then a 2-foot wide setback from the property line as far as the edge of the water is concerned. This would be ideal just because otherwise it would be a 7-foot wide pool, which would be, in my opinion, I don't know if it would be worth undertaking the project if I can only get 7 feet of width. It'd be more of a lap pool at that point. Just trying to maximize the amount of play area and water for my family and myself to enjoy. And that's about it from me.
The existing lanai is, the southern edge of it is within inches of what, that footprint's within inches of what the pool would be if you grant this, the variance. Overall, by removing the lanai and adjacent brick paving, we'll have a net increase in pervious area in the backyard. So we're not taking away pervious or drainage area, but in fact, we're increasing it.
Do you have any photographs?
Photos?
Yes. Down or up?
Perfect, there you go.
The photo in the upper left is taken from inside the lanai, and in the photograph in the upper right is where the lanai is close to the property line. That fence is inside the property line by almost a foot. The bottom left photograph is showing pavers that go from the lanai across the backyard, as does the one on the right. Most of those pavers would, well, actually all those pavers will be removed to give room for construction. The aluminum roof lanai will be demolished and it will no longer be there.
Can you explain that photograph on the upper right, where the lanai is just, like a foot or so from the fence? I'm not seeing where that occurs on the site plan that we have.
I'm sorry, I missed your question.
The picture in the upper right,
Yes, ma'am.
you have the edge of the lanai, correct?
Yes,
And you have a fence very close to it.
yes.
Where on the site plan does that occur?
On the site plan, it's not, they're anticipating taking it down, demolishing the.
It doesn't matter, I'm asking where that is current to your plan, to your site plan.
Oh, okay. I can get you a survey to,
I think if you go back in the presentation, there is what was given to us electronically.
Oh, I'm looking
There is
at
a
that.
boundary- Well, there's a boundary survey that shows existing. It's just not in the packet, it's in the electronic
It's
files.
not in the package, it's in.
It's right here. It was given to us.
Does this show
I
it's
think we
the,
need the current survey.
So it's this number down here?
Yeah.
Okay, because what I'm seeing on mine, the lanai is even with the back of the house.
Right, you're seeing the proposed one. This is the existing.
Ah.
It was in the packet. that was
Okay,
emailed to
all
us.
right.
And
Yes,
they can
no, I
you can bring
understand.
it up.
I will go back to the package.
There you go. Nope. Yes.
There we go.
Okay. And I'm curious, there seems to be a lot of paved area and not a lot of open stuff on this property. Have you calculated what those numbers are? And Stephen may know that answer already.
Yeah, so from the natural resources review, with the pool is going basically in this footprint here.
Right,
So there won't be really a net increase of pervious area.
okay.
So the lot's only required to have 25%. And it is set back pretty far in the front, which
Okay.
accommodates most of their green space in the front yard,
Okay,
instead of along the rear and the sides and the rear like we're usually seeing.
okay. And then do you have a picture of the house from that backside at all?
Let's see. And then there's the rear view with the patio area that was shown on the survey, and then the rear screen enclosure.
So the pool would go where that lanai is now?
That's correct, yes.
But a portion of the lanai will remain?
None of it will remain.
I'm sorry, is it 2 entrances to the lanai?
Is it, I'm sorry.
2 entrances?
Two entrances? Yes, there are 2 entrances currently to the
Oh,
lanai.
Okay.
Okay.
So it looks to me like you're gonna, it says pool water is 2 feet from the property line, and the pool structure is 1 foot from the property line. So that
Yes, sir.
means that the pool water has a 1 foot coping essentially
That's
between next to
correct.
that, and then there's 1 foot to the fence.
Yes,
So there's 24 inches from the water to the property line, not the fence, because the fence is currently 1 foot in. I'm assuming you're gonna tear that down and put a new fence in.
Correct.
So you'll have 24 inches. And then between the pool water and the house, you've only got 36 inches.
Correct.
That seems very tight. Especially with having 2 young kids. I mean, I guess you're just gonna lock off the entire house and then get in there. I'm sure that we have 5-foot setbacks for a reason, and that is, like I was mentioning earlier, for people to be able to get around these properties. God forbid the back of your home or the back of your neighbor's home is on fire.
Right.
And these firefighters have to get there. You know, if this guy's wearing a tank, a mask, clothes, boots, hauling a hose, and he's gotta stand in 24 inches of land to save someone's life in the back of the next property, I have concerns that 2 feet's not enough.
Right.
You know, that's why we have these setbacks
So we have 3 feet between the pool and the house, and then 2 feet between
between the pool and the property line, which I'm assuming is where the new fence is gonna be.
That's so
And you
close.
know, the fence is called an inch thick. You have
Yeah.
4x4s running down it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gonna be real, it's a very tight area for safety and wellness of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Okay, any further questions from the board?
In looking at this, right now, your lanai doesn't give very much room for anyone to get by it at all.
Correct. Getting past it in the back is difficult in general.
Okay, and then I would assume the doors going through the lanai are 36 inches or less, 3 foot or less in width.
About that.
So the area by the house would be approximately what you can get by through the screen doors if you had to get around the back right now for existing.
It might even be less than
So you can
the
step through a
width.
screen and you can't step over water.
Yeah. How far is the current back of the house from the property line?
The lanai itself, we're talking about?
Well,
or-
no, not the lanai itself, the house itself. You're
Oh,
saying
the house itself is 15 feet.
Mr. Ister, is that what's required there, or 20 feet or 15 feet?
So I believe on this site, it is zoned RS 60, so there should be a 20-foot setback there.
Mm-hmm.
There was no process to reduce it. So, but there are a lot of trees in this area, so it might have been pushed back because of this tree here. They may have allowed the yard to be reduced in the rear to get to that 15 feet.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Okay. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this variance? Seeing none, you have rebuttal time if you need.
nothing.
Anything you'd like to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay, then we close the public hearing and hear from the board.
It's tough. I like the pool better than I like the lanai. The lanai blocks more than the pool does, but
Yeah,
I
but
don't like either, but
I'm not fond of either. I mean, you know, it's supposed to be 20 feet, it's already down to 15, and now we're gonna bring it down to 2 feet? I'm not in favor of that, I'm sorry, that's just a little too extreme back there for what they're trying to do. I sympathize with their concerns, but, you know, there's some safety issues in my mind too, with 3 feet from the house and 2 feet from the back. That's just, that's not something I would recommend.
I mean, it's a very difficult thing, you know, some situations, you know, not every house is entitled a pool.
Right.
You know, every house needs to be safe for the people around them.
Right.
So, again, it's a difficult situation, and I'm compassionate, you know, to the children and the
Right.
swim lessons, and, you know, if your neighbor's got a pool, maybe if you're buddy with him, you can go over there, but in my opinion, this is
Too close.
it's a little too close, a little too tight for the safety and welfare.
You wanna make a motion?
So in looking at all the pools around them, they're all on the property line just like that. The whole neighborhood's that way. It's
Each
just
case?
unfortunate the other way. I understand, but that is looking at, you know, is it fair that his neighbor can have a pool to the property line?
I mean,
He
I
can't?
can't, and you cannot take a look at something like that and bring that into the record. It's not to our purview.
We don't know why, how far the other homes are set back, were there other circumstances, trees that impacted it?
I just
From
don't
what
see it,
I'm
you
seeing
know.
here, I'm unfortunately, I don't see it.
I understand, but I disagree.
Okay, well, you wanna make, somebody wanna make a motion?
I mean, there's only 4 of us.
Come on, Aaron.
Yep, I'll make the motion then. I would move that the variance request for case BRB 25-48 for the property located at 3412 West Palmyra Ave for a reduction in the rear yard setback for a pool from 5 feet to 2 feet. Be denied due to failure of the petitioner to meet its burden of proof or provide competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria as set forth in section 27-80 of the city code. Specifically that this is a standard 50 by 100 foot lot. It's not a corner lot, there's no irregularities there. And this does not meet the safety and welfare of the neighborhood.
We have a motion, is there a second? Motion and a second, any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion as stated signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed likewise? I'm sorry, it did not pass, 3-1.
Thank you.
Okay, next case.
The next item on the agenda is VRB-25-52. The property owner is Paul and Elena Across. The location is 3409 West Sevilla Street. The zoning is residential single family, RS 60. The request is to reduce the west side yard setback from 7 feet to 6 feet 6 inches for a primary structure, and to reduce the accessory structure setback from 3 feet to 2.4 feet. The code sections of reference are 27-156 and 27-290. This is a map of the site. This is a site plan of the new home that was constructed, showing the 6'6" measurement here, and then the 2.4 measurement here. Here's a close-up of those measurements, showing the accessory structure at 2.4 feet from the property line, and the primary structure 6.6 from the primary structure. Natural resources, transportation, wastewater, water, right-of-way, and TICO, all found inconsistent or consistent with conditions. This is the criteria for hardship. One additional factor, this was a BLD permit that was approved and CO'd. And the survey, there was an issue with the survey, which I'm sure the applicant will expand on. And I'll be available for any comments, questions, or concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Charles Kitzmiller. My address is 6104 Yates Manor Drive. I am the architect for the project, and I have been sworn in.
Thank you.
Okay. This is our original survey, which we were presented with, and we designed the house to meet the setbacks that were complied with this survey. You can see that the neighbor's fence is actually 2.1 foot in onto this property. When the house was, I would say 95% complete, the neighbor was like, this is really close. So what's going on here? So they actually got their own survey. And then we had the two survey companies sort of confab between them. And what had happened was this pin got shifted over. So what's the survey of existing is not the survey that we used to actually plan the project. So that's why the pin in the front stayed, but this is why we've got 7 foot in the front, because that stayed where it was. This property line actually shifted over. So that's why we end up with these setbacks the way they are. This part of the primary structure is actually 1 story, and of course the accessory structure is 1 story as well. So my statement of hardship is like, we were trying to do the right thing, and we were trying to respect the Grand Oaks and put the house aligned with the western property line. And when the property line shifts, that's when we have an issue. That's it.
Any photos?
I do not have any photos. There's photos in the record from,
Oh, I see the photos that you've got here. I just
yeah.
didn't quite, the kind of little snippets. I was hoping to see something more broad. But that's just my request, not required.
That's the fence and that's the wall. Again, this fence is 2.1, well, less than 2.1 now, but from the original survey, it was 2.1 feet into this property. So that's kind of what the neighbor was upset about.
Okay, there you go. And the portion that is affected by this request is
The
1
accessory
story?
structure, the 1-story accessory structure, and then it's the 1-story portion that is part of the master suite on the first
Okay.
floor.
Okay.
Mr. Estrad, can you go up 1 photo?
Of course.
It's got the circle, I guess that's showing us the 1-story area.
The photo looks like it's backwards to me. Or it's, I couldn't figure out how they got that picture because we don't have anything that's like that.
That's overhanging the concrete. I was gonna say, I just saw another picture, the concrete block was 5 inches from the fence, and that looks like more than a 5-inch overhang.
And that,
That's,
well, that 2-story portion was the main primary structure. So
that's
this
4 inches.
photo is of the accessory structure.
So the accessory structure is 4 inches from the fence, and the one that we were looking at before, where it looks like the overhang's hanging over the fence, is
6.6.
that's 6 feet away from that fence?
See, I don't know where that picture's taken.
Is that the front or the back?
That's the front. That's the front porch roof.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a flat roof on the front porch.
And that part, that
And that was
section.
actually at 7 feet. So the front of the house is fine. It's just because the property line shifted that now the rear part of the house is not fine.
So this is the area of the
Yeah,
photo.
that's that roof.
I don't believe we do. So this is the front going back. This is the accessory structure. This is the accessory structure. And then those are all the photos.
Right. So with the property owners dealing with one another, the fence is gonna get moved, and because they have to be able to finish the accessory structure, there's a bunch of bamboo that's gonna come out. So this neighbor had originally filed a letter of objection, which they then retracted because there was a deal made.
A deal made?
That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
So suddenly they're not so harmed.
Okay. Is there any, I'm sorry, you were still in your presentation, and we kind of
Yeah,
butted in
if
and
you'd
asked you
like, the
questions.
survey company is here, if you'd like to ask them, what happened? But I mean, I
Well,
pretty much explained that the
you
pins
have.
got moved.
You have. Any other questions from the board?
I'm just still thinking about that overhang. I mean, when we do these variances, it reads very specifically to eaves and gutters. Is that taking into account with this request, or does the request need to be more substantial than it currently is?
Stephen, I'm sure, can help us with that.
Yeah.
So with this request, the front eave that you were looking at, that looked like it was crossing over, is actually meeting the setback. So this front covered area is 7 feet from the property line.
I don't see how though, because that shows it completely flush with the house. Is that survey
So-
showing the eave, or is that survey
It shows
showing the
the
concrete
building.
block?
It shows the block, and then you get the 3 feet for eaves and
And you
gutters.
get additional 3 feet for
Correct.
Right,
eaves.
and the overhang at the accessory structure is 6 inches, so it's not like a 3-foot overhang.
So when we do our variances, does that also include a 3-foot for eaves and gutters?
Correct.
So if we approve a 2-foot, 2.4, he can go 6 inches into the neighbor's yard with his eve and gutter?
Well, it's
already there. So you cannot cross the property line,
Right.
and you have to manage any water that comes off the roof. So you can't terminate your roof line at property line and dump all your water on your neighbor's house. They still have to manage what have you, and they can't cross the property line. So this request would be 6.6 to 7, or 7 to 6.6, and then 3 feet to 2.4.
Okay, so those distances are sufficient for the structure that's currently there?
That's
Even though we have some optical illusions?
Correct.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Excuse me, and Stephen, just for clarification, so they can't encroach any more than what the code allows, so,
Correct.
okay. That's what- I think we're saying the same thing, but yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted clarification.
Correct. No,
because, you know,
we better put it on
we
the
say
record.
We say it right out loud, and I just don't want
Absolutely.
this
Might
poor
as well-
gentleman to get an approval, and then
Then-
2 weeks later, someone says, nope, it goes another 6
Yeah,
inches.
so your approval is specific to the wall location. Everything else, they will still have to meet code. So if they're granted 3 feet, but they can only do 2 feet to accommodate the gutters and make sure all the stormwater is accommodated, they have to reduce their eaves
Gotcha.
to accommodate. They can't max it out.
Very good.
Thank you, good to know.
So this picture, is that currently where it is now, and like, can they walk that gate? Is that flush to the?
That's part of the agreement, that they're gonna move the fence back to the
Okay.
property line.
Okay,
Because right now it's sticking into this property, the neighbor's fence.
yeah, okay.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak for or against? Mr. McLean? I forgot, turned off my microphone.
Board, I only have one comment, and that is to ensure, as one of your board members already pointed out, that the gutters be adequate to convey the stormwater away from the neighbor's property. And if you would please make that part of your motion. I know that the construction services they require gutters anyway, but if you grant this variance, it should be part of your motion, just to make sure that that's incorporated. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else here to speak for or against? Mr. Fitzmiller, you have rebuttal time if you so like.
I guess my only rebuttal is the fact that the overhang on that side is 6 inches and the gutter's there, so it's not going to be projecting into the property, the neighbor's
Okay,
property.
thank you. Close public hearing and hear from the board.
I mean, it's an unfortunate error. It is not encroaching a huge amount into the setback of what it is. You can see that they tried to do it right.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, these things happen. This is why we exist.
Yes,
That compounding of the different opinions on property lines, in addition to the fence location being cockeyed,
Yeah.
it's a tough one to visualize.
All right.
okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
Sure. I move that the variance request for case VRB 25-52 for the property located at 3409 West Sevilla Street be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in the side yard setback from 7 feet to 6'6" for the primary structure and from 3 foot to 2'4" for the accessory structure upon applicant presenting competent substantial evidence of the record for the public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria as set forth in 27-80 of the city code. Specifically that there was a surveying error, that's the professionals have come and talked to us about this survey error, and it does not cause any undue hardship to the neighbors.
I have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion from the board? We'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion as stated signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Stephen, moving right along here.
All right, good evening, board. The next item on the agenda is VRB-25-55. The owner is TGR Homes LLC. The applicant is Shalom Harloff. The property address is 4106 West Neptune Street. The zoning is residential single family, RS 60. The request is to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet. The code section of reference is 27-156. Table 4-2, schedule of area, height, bulk, and placement regulations for RS 60 lots. 25-foot front setback, 20-foot rear setback, and 7-foot side setbacks. The previous action on the site is SPR-25-0001829, which is the proposed home. This is a photo of the site. This is the proposed home. And we'll do a close-up. This is a close-up of the angled section that is counting as their rear setback. And at this corner, it is a 10-foot, 10-inch to the wall. And they're requesting to reduce it to 10 feet for any thing to happen in the field, just in case. This is a photo of the site. Natural resources, found it consistent with conditions. Transportation, found it consistent with conditions. At the time of permitting, they must comply with section 22315 by providing only one driveway or connecting both driveways to form a circular configuration. Wastewater, water, right-of-way, found it consistent. Stormwater, found it consistent with conditions. The existing grades show that the lot is draining to the front of the property, not the back. Please maintain the current drainage patterns. The site plan shows flow arrows pointing to the south to a private property. The property is higher in elevation and should not be receiving additional runoff. The narrowing of the sides may restrict the ground surface sheet flow, so it is recommended to add roof drains with downspouts and bubblers to discharge to the front of the property. And TICO had no comment as of 7/28/2025. This is the criteria outlined in section 27-80. And I'll be available for any comments, questions, or concerns.
Thank you, sir. Is the applicant here?
Yeah.
Come on up.
Speak here. My name is Shalom Khalfon, address 2404 South L Avenue, Tampa, Florida 33629. I'm also building this house,
And have you been sworn?
I'm sorry?
Have you been sworn in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. So, So yeah, so basically only really the where should I show it? Yes. So basically right there at the only at this corner we wanted to make this is the proposed house that we wanted to build. Before that we have this house which is much smaller and not really accommodate the standard for this neighborhood specifically. Most houses are very big, have a nice lanai and everything, and just because of the angle right here, it's make it very hard to make it like that. So we thought it's gonna be better to make it this way. We still didn't demo the house yet and anything, but that's our plan if we can get this approved.
Okay. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
So the picture that we saw, does that house exist now?
No, this is the proposed, and this is the existing.
So it's an empty lot right now?
No, we still didn't demo the house. We have a demo permit. We should start demo next week, but I wanted to make sure we get this approved before.
Okay.
What's the square footage of the proposed structure?
I'm not sure exactly, but I think it's around 4,700 square feet.
Okay. And on the front with the garages, it's got a garage on either side? Or is that
Garage, we have 3-car garage.
2 on one side, 1 on the other?
Yes.
Okay. Roundabout driveway.
They have to be
Yeah,
connected,
he's
so
gonna
you're
have to
gonna have to
connect it,
fix
yeah.
that, right? You understand that? There can only be,
I can't hear you.
You can only have one driveway, so I'm just looking at kind of the overall site plan. Even if you get this, you still aren't gonna be able to build your driveways like that. You're gonna have to create either a round driveway, an arc.
Yeah, we're gonna create by the city of Tampa. There is.
That gets wider and goes to the other side.
Yeah.
you can take care of that in permitting.
I'm sorry.
I said, I'm sure permitting will let you know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, I'm sorry. We asked if you concluded your presentation. We are at questions from the board. Anything else?
Yeah, just one more. The lanai out back, that's an open lanai?
Yes.
Like an open air and it's single story?
Yes.
Okay,
With the roof on top of it.
gotcha.
Okay.
Very good.
All
Thank you.
right. Anyone here to speak for or against? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Charles Dowman. 4108 West Neptune is my address, and I was sworn in.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So they want to decrease the setback from 20 feet to 10 feet. My concern is if you want to build a house, look at the lot size before you build it, right? This address, 4106, has the same lot size as 4116. That was demoed in January. So 2025, that was bought for $525, demoed. It's sitting completely empty. You can see the lot, same shape. They bought this one, same lot. So that cornering that happens in the back, the lot is known before you buy it. You can look at it on the Hillsborough County Property Appraiser's website. I would think that the lot size would dictate the size of the home, rather than I want to put a bigger house and get my variance in because my lot's unique in shape. That was known. So I've lived in Tampa for 13 years, and we all know South Tampa floods quite a bit. So my concern, being the neighbor, would be the sheet flow, the flow off a building that's gonna take up I guess you guys said earlier, I think it's a 25%, is that surface, paved surface to bare ground. I'm a hydrologist with the county. So my concern is, yeah, we're gonna have a whole lot of rainwater coming off the top of that, and it's gonna be coming likely to the neighboring side. So I'm the main neighbor on the west side of this building. I don't know if, I had some things that, as the neighbor, I don't know if when you talked about the health and safety and welfare, you guys were talking a lot about fire access. I wouldn't say that there's any fire access that's a problem, but I am considering the size and the additional coverage. We would definitely increase rainwater that's being diverted away from the structure into the neighboring property. So, is the variance in harmony with the chapter of Tampa's comprehensive plan? Wouldn't say that all new construction is not necessary, but what I guess I'm wanted to see was that, if you're going to build a home, build it suitable to the lot size. Since we've moved in there 11 years ago, we've had houses being built, two ones coming down, I've got 6 new houses in my little neighborhood in the last, 10 years. So it is comparable to what's in the neighborhood, but I don't know if, getting a variance to bring it further back is a better alternative. Thanks. Is that my 3 minutes or wrap up?
Yep, wrap up.
I guess, individual hardships, caused by increasing surface water diversion onto the neighboring property. That's what I came basically to kind of talk to you guys about. I'm a geologist, work with this stuff all the time. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Anyone else to speak for or against? Mr. Halfon, you have rebuttal time if you'd like.
Please, yes. So I see his concern, and I think, well, in the city of Tampa, you can do a 50%. You can build on 50% of the lot, which we're not going to get over it. So really, it's not gonna affect anything with the drainage. Also, there is a comment from, I think, well, I'm not sure exactly which one put the other comment, but the comment said they very outline all the drainage to make sure that the water will go from the back to the front. So believe me, I'm working with City of Tampa inspectors all the time. They're not gonna let me go without that, and we're gonna need to we're gonna need to grade it the way that that the water will go into the front. And also on this plan, like the engineer plan, we put gutters all the way from up there in the roof, and with the bubblers all the way to the front. So I'm pretty much sure that after we're gonna build this house, and again, I'm not an engineer, but after we're gonna build this house, you're gonna have less water into your property, just because all the techniques we're gonna use to create it. I don't see how that's gonna hurt, but I'll let you guys to, yeah.
Okay. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll close the public hearing and hear from the board. Anyone comments? So I drew on my plan, and I wish there was a way I could show it up there. And the area of non-compliance is this little bitty triangle on the corner of the house. And he could build, if he built straight across 20 feet, the portion of the land he could use is a good 5 times as much square footage as what that little triangle encompasses. So I think it's an odd shaped lot. Could it have been designed differently? Yeah, of course. But the area of non-compliance is so small compared to how much more land he could have covered that I don't see this as a problem. And I don't have an objection to what he's doing. I mean, the 10 feet is just down at that one corner. It's not like it goes all the way across the back of the house. He maintains way more than 20 feet for for the remainder of the property. So I can show you what it looks like, but I think you understand.
Yeah, just to touch on the drainage, I do know that stormwater requires on-site mitigation of water runoff. So they will be reviewing all of his design plans to make sure that the water stays on his property and only would release out into the right of way.
Yeah, it's an irregular shaped lot, which is a clear hardship. It shows exactly to me.
All right, someone would like to make a motion? I hope.
Oh, sure. Let's see. I would like to move that the variance request for case VRB 25-55 for property located at 4106 West Neptune Street be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in rear yard setback from 20 feet to 10 feet. As presented at this public hearing, based upon the applicant presenting a competent and substantial evidence for the record at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80. That this is a irregular shaped lot, and it does seem to be in harmony with the new style of the neighborhoods and the modern sized homes, that all drainage will be taken care of by the permitted design plans.
I have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll call a question. All in favor of the motion as stated signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Your motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is VRB-25-60. The owner is 365 Property Partners LLC. The applicant is Jerry Britt. The property address is 3103 South Omar Avenue. The zoning is residential single family, RS 75. The request is to remove a grand tree to construct a new single family residence. The code section in reference today is 27-284.2.5. And then the previous action is SPR-25-000000762 for the proposed home. This is an aerial of the site. This is the information on the grand tree in question. It's a live oak with a DBH of 41 inches, canopy measurements of 65 by 85, a condition of B7, and if the tree is removed, 23 type 1 trees at 2.5 inch DBH would be required as mitigation. These are photos of the tree in question. It is directly behind the house between there's a two-story addition here and then a one-story house here. This is a survey of the existing site. You can see the tree here. This is the proposed home, showing the tree located within the living space right here. This property has a 30-foot setback in the front. Typically, RS 75 has 25 feet, but this has a platted 30-foot setback, pushing it back an additional 5 feet. This is alternative site plan 1. This variation shows the house shifted to the north within the 7 feet of the north property line. So it takes the proposed house, moving it all the way to the north within the 7-foot setback. And then here is the tree outlined with the red. The red hash line is the 20-foot protective radius, just to kind of bring attention to that. This is alternative site plan 2. This variation shows the house shifted to the west rear of the property line within 20 feet. So this brings it back to the 20-foot setback in the rear of the property. And then again, it shows the tree here with the 20-foot radius. Natural resources found it consistent with conditions. The grand live oak is centrally located on the lot. The owner has demonstrated that moving the proposed home further to the side, rear, or front would still place the tree well within the proposed footprint. They're pervious. The previous house was built less than 10 feet away from the tree, leaving a reduced growing area. The tree is currently rated a B7 and full mitigation is required. The mitigation value for this tree is 23 type 1 trees at 2.5-inch DBH. Transportation, wastewater, water, right-of-way, stormwater, and TECO all found it consistent or consistent with conditions. This is the criteria for grand tree removal under 27-284.2.5. And then I'll be available for any comments, questions, or concerns.
Thank you, Stephen. Is the petitioner here?
All right, and the dock camera is, oh, no, you have a presentation.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
I am Jerry Britt. My address is 618 Columbia Drive, Tampa, Florida, 33606. I have been sworn in.
Thank you.
I have a packet that I'm going to present from tonight, and this has been uploaded to Acela, but I have enough copies that all the board members could have one. So if you need to look at something other than what on the screen, and there's enough, so one for the attorney if necessary. And this was printed on paper claimed from this house that we're going to tear down, and with and held together with paper clips claimed from this house. It's a completely recycled presentation. And that just said it was 41, and it's funny because earlier it said 39, but I guess the tree's growing as we talk. You know, it depends on where you measure. The official variance request was to remove a 39-inch live oak, but it's the same tree, and to build a new single-family home. The variance review board staff report states, as he just shared with us, it's consistent with conditions. The grand live oak is centrally located on the lot, and boy, that is an understatement. I'll demonstrate that in just a moment, that it's centrally located on the lot. The previous house was built less than 10 feet from the tree. Our company bought this home from Greg and Jane Harlow after it flooded in the storm surge of Hurricane Helene. So the first hardship is the flood, and I'll give more details on that in a moment. The house cannot be fixed up because of FEMA requirements. The ground floor that flooded is 2,268 square foot, plus the garage, but that's not part of this formula. Multiply that by 6485, the amount the city of Tampa has established to be used if a house can be rebuilt and be FEMA compliant, comes up to $147,079.80. The depreciated value of the house, according to Hillsborough County tax records, is $204,872. That makes the percentage that FEMA considers to be 71.8%, well over the 50% allowed. This house cannot be repaired as is and be FEMA compliant. The Harlows could not repair their home. They sold it to us. There is no practical use option for this address but to build a new FEMA compliant home. It is a residential location. There can't be a business or anything else built there. We have a permit to build another home in the same neighborhood, and we are saving a 47, a 35, and a 34-inch oak there. We like to save trees, but this tree cannot be saved. The staff report showed the proposed alternatives, and I just want to say a couple things about those. That circle there is showing the radius around the tree. That's right in the middle of the living room. And our proposal was already as far forward as it could be. It's 3 inches away from where the front setback needs to be. It is 7 feet exactly from the south side of the lot. So we were already to those sides. So the two alternatives here, this was to move it as far north as we could, that he already showed up there. This example shows the tree still squarely inside the living space. We also have one of these weird corners like the last one just had, and we happen to be staying away from it. It's over a 10,000 square foot lot. So we've got plenty of room to build a substantial home around the lot and I just happen to notice everybody else tonight is requesting a setback variance. I'm to be the only tree. I don't need a setback variance. I can build a house inside the setbacks. The tree is the headache here. And the second variance, we moved all the way back. Actually, you'll see that red square, red rectangle in the back. That is because I did shorten the back porch a little bit because I needed to stay 20 feet away from that angled wall, which is considered the back setback. But now the house is even more dead center in the room. It's right in the middle of the living room and the kitchen with slid that way. So there just is no place to move it. So our request to remove this oak is, here's the current house from the survey that he showed, and I illustrated this because it's a little hard to see. That yellow area now is the tree, just highlighted where that tree in question is. This is that yellow area with the red circle for the setback around it. So the existing house impedes the area allowed for the tree substantially on the two-story side and a little bit on the front side. you would not allow the current house to be built, I mean, not you guys, but the permitting would not allow the current house to be built or a new house to be built on the existing footprint. Here's how close the tree is. It is 6 foot 10 inches from the garage right now, and it is 17 foot 10 inches from the main house right now, and 22 feet's the distance based on this size of a tree that it should be set back in all directions. So it's already dramatically impeding that. This new house has to be built up to be FEMA compliant, so this canopy presents a bit of a problem as well. It's over the house in this non-FEMA compliant one-story house. A new house, even a one-story, would be 7 to 8 foot higher just to get the base above the floodplain, and that's if we still had an 8-foot ceiling. If you did a 10-foot ceiling, like most are in this neighborhood, would be about 10 foot higher, so you'd cut into that canopy even with a one-story. And there's a picture of the tree and where it is in relationship to the corner, and you can see it's touching the house in just a few places. Of course, it could be pruned, but a one-story house being 7 or 8 foot taller, as I mentioned, we're proposing 2 stories in keeping with the new homes that are being built in the neighborhood. Some of the canopy, thankfully, is over the yard where this branch fell recently. Just took these pictures, I think, on Saturday or Sunday of this week. So let's take one last look beyond the 2 alternatives already presented. This tree sets approximately these distances from the border of the lot. I measured this by hand with a tape measure and around the house, so it's not surveyor precise, but it is 75 feet from the front property line, 57 from the back, 45 from the left, and 55 from the right. You would only have to move this tree 5 feet north and 9 foot east to be exactly in the middle of the lot. It is that close to the middle. That green bar in the bottom illustration of this page shows this is the only house you could build on this property and comply with the tree setbacks and the property setbacks. So our hardship is that the home flooded and it must be lifted or torn down and a new home built to be FEMA compliant. It is impractical to lift this current home, but even if we chose to do that at considerable expense to save this dated 1956 home and then remodel it inside, the city wouldn't allow that because this existing home is too close to the tree in question. So no modification of this home could be allowed, and it's uninhabitable as it is, having flooded. There's no reasonable home configuration that can be built with this tree that's just 10.5% away from being dead center on the lot. We didn't cause the hardship. We didn't cause Hurricane Helene flood that destroyed this home and my own personal residence, as a side note. And we did not plant this tree in the center of this lot. With this tree being in the center and the roots and the canopy not being intertwined with neighbors' trees, it won't adversely affect anyone. As it relates to the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, this variance allows us to build a house with the designated setbacks and of similar size to others in this neighborhood that the city has designated as RS 75. This lot is virtually unusable with this tree in this location. This is a large lot, and we will be able to plant several trees on this lot upon completion of the build. If we can't fit them all in a reasonable configuration, we'll contribute to the tree fund to have the trees planted at the places of the city's designation to meet the necessary mitigation. Thank you for your consideration of our unique plight, and thank you for considering the variance needed to make this lot functional.
Does that conclude your presentation?
It does.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Actually, a question for Mr. Eister. For some reason, I had thought that when a tree was truly this central in the dead center of a lot, that a variance was not necessary.
That does apply to smaller lots. So what you're referencing is the tree removal zone, and that applies to lots that are 6,500 square feet or less. This lot is over 10,000, so it's a larger lot. So that.
Okay, so that's what moves it into the.
Right, that's how we got here.
Okay.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is something that is for smaller lots that is the same exact situation.
Yeah, technically, you could build a house on this property. Like that green line I showed, it'd be 12 foot wide in the front, 10 foot up here on this side. So technically, you could build a house around this. That's why it requires to come to the Variance Review Board. Not a house I want to live in, but, you know, but.
Real strange.
Any other questions from the board? Anyone in the audience to speak for or against? Seeing none, Mr. Britt, you have rebuttal time if you'd like.
Don't need anything else, thank you.
All right, and we'll close the public hearing. Hear from the board. This neighborhood, this whole area of Tampa was hit so hard by Helene. It was horrendous. The flooding, the water came up very, very quickly. Some, you know, and unfortunately, some of the homes could not be saved, and sadly, this is one of them. So, you know me, I'm usually in favor of whatever we can do for a tree, especially one this size, but, Mr. Britt, I sympathize with your plight.
Thank you.
And sadly, I don't see any way around it, because anything that we could do to build up or is gonna destroy the tree no matter what, so.
So board members, as you consider, I know that there was a lot of information about the flooding, but that's not really a naturally physical condition of the property, which is what
Understood.
the board members focus on. So there was other evidence regarding physical conditions on the property, so
Yeah.
I'll just remind you of that in your deliberations.
Taking a look at the reconfiguration options for the home to keep it in something that fits the aesthetic of the neighborhood and not something that's 10 feet wide on 3 sides. There is no way to reconfigure this lot, in my opinion, as much as I hate to see, again, a tree this size be lost, especially in this neighborhood, which has so many beautiful grand trees. But I have to agree that I don't see a way that this lot can be usable with that size of tree dead center.
I completely agree, and I just want to thank you for doing a very comprehensive proposal,
Yes. Thank
you.
giving us lots of options, showing us how it really just can't be done. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing what you do with lifting up the property, because I know that a lot of people are facing the same situation.
Yes.
And I hope they take this as a sign that there are things that can be done.
It's a different sheet. Right. Or is it on the backside?
I think it is.
All right.
I can't make any motions.
I move that the variance request for case VRB 25-60 for property located at 3103 South Omar Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for removal of the grand tree based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 factors determining the tree removal as set forth in section 27-284.2.5 T4 of the city code. For granting tree removal, specifically, the evidence provided on the record showed that this almost exactly centrally located tree makes the lot practically unbuildable, and was demonstrated to us.
Motion, we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, we can call the question. All those in favor of the motion as stated signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed likewise? Your motion passes for
Thank you.
nothing. Thank you, sir. Yes. Sadly, I'm very familiar with this house and the previous owner, so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, moving to the next item on the agenda is VRB 25-63. The owner is Jackie and Craig Cahill. The applicant is Steve Michelini. The property address is 3515 West Tacon Street. The zoning is residential single family, RS 60. The request is to reduce the west side corner yard setback from 7 feet to 0 feet for an enclosed screen. The code section of reference is 27-290.5, screen enclosures. The following setbacks shall apply to all screen enclosures: front setback 25 feet, from corner lot line 7 feet, from side lot line 5 feet, and from rear lot line 5 feet. The previous actions on this site is CMP-24-0002764 for the unpermitted screen enclosure. And then this case was heard back in November of last year, VRB-24-48, and was denied. They have met the criteria to addressing the major issues the board had with the denial, so they can come back in front of you today. At the time of the hearing in November, there was a concern of safety, for fire safety, due to the screen enclosure location, and they submitted a inspection report by a professional to determine the safety of that screen enclosure. This is the site in question. This is the site plan showing the screen enclosure that extends from the primary structure to the property line. These are photos of that screen enclosure built all on top of the existing perimeter wall that runs along the side of the property. Then the screen enclosure goes over top, and then you can see doors in the front, side, and then this is the primary front door for the house. Natural resources, transportation, wastewater, water, right-of-way, stormwater, all found inconsistent, and TICO had no comment as of 7/28/2025. This is the criteria for the hardship under the 27-80 for the variance review board. And I'll be available for any comments, questions, concerns.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Michelini?
Yeah, good evening, Board. Steve Michelini, representing the petitioner. And yes, I have been sworn.
And your address?
2407 Sunset Drive, and the applicant subject property is 3515 Tacon Street.
Thank you.
We're coming before you, based upon the evidence and the hearing notes that were presented at the last case, and it was apparent based upon our investigation as well as the staff certifying those documents and our additional information that we were able to come back before you. As the staff has pointed out, let me show you the site plan. The enclosure was added onto an existing masonry wall, and that already was, if there was an impact already, that impact would have been obvious and would have been taken into consideration. So the house was built in 2004, so you had 21 years of potential impact. The outside, and I'll show you in some photographs in a second, but the impact of that is buffered by heavy landscaping, and there's an additional 20 feet between the edge of that wall and the edge of the right-of-way. This is a screened enclosure, and as you can see, it rests on top of an existing masonry wall. This is the aerial photographs that's in your package that shows the orientation, and it shows the distance between the edge of pavement and the edge of the existing wall. Transportation has signed off on this. There were no site obstructions that were created by the addition of the screened enclosure. Here's the front door, and you can see the beginning of the screen enclosure here. There's the side that's showing you, the adjacent area. There's the landscaping between the wall and the edge of the pavement. The hardship was created by a medical condition by the homeowner, who has had a liver transplant and was on immune suppression therapy. And I have two letters, both from the doctor for the children, and they considered them to be carriers of potential infections, as well as the need to provide some kind of medical barrier for the homeowner. And these are also in your package. And it says here, immune suppressant medications, which increases the risk of contracting infections and viruses. His health history includes multiple long-term hospital stays, and due to the viral meningitis and encephalitis, followed by liver failure and eventual transplant. While in good health now, it remains critical for him to take precautions to reduce the risk of contraction viruses or infections. And the same applies for the children who might be carriers of various infections. We engaged a professional fire inspector. It was Jay Trena, who was formerly a city fire marshal, also a former city fire inspector, and that report is included in your package. We called the fire marshal's office, and they indicated that for residential properties, they did not do inspections nor safety evaluation. So we did the next best thing, and we went to the fire marshal, who was formerly the city fire marshal, and the fire marshal's office. And I want to read a couple of things from his report for you. The primary objective was to ensure that the addition does not obstruct or negatively impact the department access and emergency egress or overall fire and life safety. And he went on, the screen, I'm just excerpting a couple things for your information. The screen enclosure was added to an existing patio area that's attached to the pre-existing concrete wall at the south front and west sides of the home. No structural changes were made to the layout of the property. And then he goes on, the inspection focused on ensuring that the addition or the screen enclosure does not obstruct fire department access or interfere with emergency response operations. Upon evaluation, it was confirmed that the screened-in patio does not impede any points of the department access, including clear paths around the structure and emergency egress routes. There are no obstructions to fire hydrants, hose deployment paths, or exterior operating spaces, as critical access points remain fully accessible. Based on these findings, the screened-in patio has found that it did not change in any way life safety access, and the patio doors, including the hardware, is typical of any screened-in enclosure in the front and the rear. I have two letters of support from neighbors who might be affected, and it would be remotely affecting them in any way, because this enclosure is adjacent to Himes Avenue, which also is additional 20 feet. And this is from 306 Take-On and 3514 Take-On. So that's the one next to it on one side and across the street on the other side of Himes. And I'll enter all these into the record, but I believe that the staff has indicated that they have uploaded those for your use. This does not increase any impervious area. It is adjacent to, as I said, the Himes right-of-way. The structure, when a structure is added to the top of a masonry wall or any other fence, that is what is triggering the setback issue. We need to provide a safe environment and a more environmentally secure entryway, which provides a buffer for the entry and exiting into the and out of the existing structure. As I said, it does not increase the impervious area. It is essential for maintaining a health and minimizing health risks. The immune suppressant medications makes him highly at risk for other infections. It has neighborhood support. The fire marshal's report also emphasizes that this does not in any way adversely impact the access. It is buffered by heavy landscaping, which I've shown you. I think I showed you all the photographs. Again, put that back up again. So there is no adverse impact across the street. One of the things that we wanted to make sure of was that there was no impact for the visual triangle required from Take-On driving westward onto Himes or across Himes going toward Dale Mabry, and there was no visual impact of any kind that was noted. Transportation signed off on this as well in their report. There were no conflicts or obstructions that were noted. The enclosure is outside and it helps to provide the buffer, as I mentioned. And we have the supporting letters from the medical professionals as well, which we've entered into the record. And just to go through the various criteria, the alleged hardships and practical difficulties are unique and singular with respect to the property, and this was not self-created. It's not something that's common, as in this individual, I'm sure is probably one of maybe 100 or 1,000 different other individuals that had to undergo a liver transplant. The hardship is not something that results directly by the applicant. They installed the enclosure as a result of the doctor's encouragement to create a safe environment. And without knowing what those requirements, in terms of the city, in terms of what those requirements were, they had that installed. The variance will not substantially interfere or injure the health, safety, and welfare of others. Indeed, it will secure the health, safety, and welfare of the resident. It is in harmony with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. Rules, regulations, and the comprehensive plan, including Tampa Planning District regulations, were not intended to create hardships for individuals like this. Allowing the variance will result in substantial justice being done, and it will benefit the family and be extremely necessary for them to maintain the health, safety, and welfare of the owner. I respectfully request your approval, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Does that conclude your presentation?
That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, sir. Questions from the board?
On the fire report, he did state that, with the screen being there, that there is no issue for them getting to the place to take care of the fires?
That's correct. The screen enclosure was added into existing, and based on the insurance, the addition does not obstruct. Now, I can show you that on this. Right here, it says, does not obstruct the fire department access or interfere with emergency response operations. And you have a copy of that report in your package.
So much like the pull screen or whatever we've done in the past.
The question came up before that it was a potential obstruction, and I mean, I'll be happy to enter all of these documents into the record individually if you like.
I think that, having a professional give their opinion that it's not obstructing
Well,
them, pretty good.
At first, we thought that the fire department could conduct an inspection, and we called and had one scheduled, and when they determined that it was a residential structure and not a commercial structure, they said you have to call a private fire prevention specialist. And that's why we reached out to Jay Trena. We'd worked with him very closely before when he was the acting fire marshal, and then he was assistant fire marshal, fire inspector before that. And so anyway, we thought that that was an additional measure that would be satisfactory to the staff.
And Steve, this is not a pool enclosure. This is just a screened-in porch.
Yes. It is a screened-in enclosure that, I think I showed you that picture. It only is going around the wall and to the front entryway of the home.
For board members, for purposes of your deliberation, I'll just remind you, and I know I've said it a couple of times this evening about focusing on the physical characteristics of the property and typically not the current occupants of the property and their personal needs. So when you're deliberating and making the motions.
Yes.
There's a picture of the screen enclosure. There's no pool. It's a walkway and a patio.
So where is that double door relative to the site plan?
That's the front.
So that door we're looking at here, that's facing Himes.
That's facing Himes, the entry
Which is
door.
the right of way, which is where prior to the screen, there was a front door that had a patio that had a wall in front of it, and then 20 more feet, and then Himes.
Yes.
So there's no.
This is the front,
There you
So,
go. Okay.
and this is the beginning of the.
and that's on take on.
That's on take on. And then what you're seeing, the other door is around on this side.
Could you put up the bird's eye view again?
So the front door that I just showed you is here. And then the other doors, those are patio doors that go to the side.
Okay, so those aren't the front doors in blue. Those are side doors.
Those are side, this is the front door. And this is the patio door.
Ah, okay, that was the confusion. Those look like front doors, so it's
You
hard to
see
tell.
that-
So it's kind of irregular like the other one where the front of the house is kind of
Yeah, it's
facing not the street, that the street address is the front of the.
You can see the
Zoning.
front screened-in portion here, and then the doorway there is around that corner.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay.
I can mark that on here if you like. This is the front door that I just showed you,
Mm-hmm.
and the patio doors are right here.
Any other questions of the board? Is there anyone here to speak for or against?
Because of that, someone, one of the residents, there's also another door.
Wait.
Oh,
Gotta
I'm
come
sorry.
up, give your name, address, and.
Sorry. Jacqueline Cahill, 3515 West Tacon Street. And there is another door to that screen room. I have been sworn.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm nervous.
There's another door in the back,
There's another door in the back that you can also get through.
but they're concerned about the variance issues. That's not part of the
Okay, I
variance.
just wanted to state that there's two entrances.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
No rebuttal. We respectfully request your approval.
all right, thank you. We'll close the public hearing and hear from the board.
I mean, it's a strangely laid out home for the address and what's considered the front of the property. If the front door is facing Hines, so in my opinion, that does definitely give it this kind of unique to this property. I mean, even though we did see once other today, it seems to be the corner lots. It doesn't really matter where they put the front doors, it matters what the city has deemed to be the front of the property, and that's where these setbacks are taking place. I mean, having a front door along Himes on a wall makes sense.
It does, and
Busy street.
Himes, I was gonna say, Himes is a fairly busy street, even
Yes.
that far south. People use it to avoid going on Dale Mabry, so I'm sure that there's some traffic issues involved there. So it's kind of an odd lot. I think that's enough for the hardship.
The layout is a little different, but I think, having it buffered like that.
I closed the public hearing, I'm sorry. We're good, okay.
I don't have a problem with it either.
Someone ready to make a motion?
I'll do that one.
Okay.
Yep.
I might need help on the end.
Oh, I haven't made one in so long, I've been chairman, so the gentleman hopefully will.
Not a problem.
Okay. So I'll read that.
Mhm.
So, okay,
Just read it right and plug it in.
let me just record myself. Move the variance request for VRB 225.63 for property located at 3515 West Tycoon Street to be granted as depicted on the site presented at the public hearing for a request to reduce west side corner yard setback from 7 foot to 0 for an enclosure screen based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing for an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that the screen would be put in.
So it's demonstrated the hardship criteria.
Okay, they demonstrated the hardship criteria and for the necessary screen enclosure.
I have a
Thank you.
motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, call the question. All those in favor of the motion as stated signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you very
Thank
much,
Mr.
board.
McNamee. Okay, one more. We're going pretty good here.
All right, we're on to the last item of the agenda,
Yes.
which is VRB-25-64. The owner is Christopher and Jacqueline Height. The applicant is Nicole Emerson. The property address is 3209 West Barcelona Street. The zoning is residential single-family RS50. The request is to reduce the rear yard setback required for an accessory structure from 3 feet to 1.4 feet. The section of code reference is 27-290, accessory structures. Accessory structures must meet the following setbacks: 60 feet from the front, 15 from the corner, 3 feet from the side, and 3 feet from the rear. This is a aerial view of the existing property. Here's the site plan. This portion of the accessory structure here that I'm outlining with my mouse, that's marked as existing carport area, is existing. So that has been pre-existing, and I have some photos later on in the presentation. So this is a close-up of that. So the existing carport is proposed to stay, and then a addition added to the side. So 289 square feet exists today. The proposed addition is 311 to create the 600 square foot structure. This is the existing carport structure as it is today. That's the east and south elevation. This is the west and north elevation. Natural resources found it consistent with conditions. Zoning Natural Resources has found it the submitted plan request consistent with conditions. During the construction phase, additional changes can be made and requested to make sure all applicable sections of 27 are being met. Transportation found it consistent with conditions. Transportation has no objections at this time. Wastewater, water, right-of-way, stormwater, all found the request consistent. This is the criteria for review under 2780 for the Variance Review Board. And I'm available for any comments, questions, or concerns. And then the applicant does have a presentation that I will get pulled up.
Okay.
Nicole Emerson, 3408 West Cordelia Street. And yes, I have been sworn in.
Thank you.
Okay, we are requesting a variance for an existing carport structure that's located here at the northeast corner of the parcel. The variance request is for reducing from 3 foot to 1 foot for the accessory structure setback as required by the Land Development Code. As you can see here, this is a survey of the property that was done in June. At that time, it was discovered that the existing carport structure was not in compliance with the setback. As you can see here, it is 1 foot 4 on this corner from the property line. We are proposing to enclose the existing carport structure. That's why we are requiring the variance. We would like to reuse the existing structure in order to utilize, it has a CMU storage room that we would like to convert into a bathroom. And then we would also be able to close in and utilize that space for storage. The addition, because with an accessory structure, you are allowed to have up to 600 square feet. We would like to, once we have the variance to be able to enclose the existing structure, we would like to increase that. The owner, the purpose of the addition and the enclosure is that they would like to add additional space for their daughter that's going to medical school. It'll be a study space, a multi-purpose space for the family, and also storage that they currently don't have in their existing bungalow. They have a 1924 bungalow here, and it is less than 1,000 square feet. So this will drastically increase the quality of life of the family of 6 that lives in this home. The proposed, I'm showing here, this is a new aerial that I put together, the property with the existing to the east, and then the proposed addition shown to the west. This is the south elevation of the existing carport. As you can see, the structure has been well maintained, and it would be impractical to tear it down and start anew when we can just enclose what's there and then be able to add a little bit of additional square footage in order to make in a much more usable space for the family. This just shows the northwest corner of the property next to the carport, where we would propose to extend the existing carport and add the additional square footage, which we would obviously keep below the required 600 square feet per accessory structure. So yes, we would like to request a variance for reduction of 3 foot to 1'4" for accessory structures. As I mentioned, the work proposes that we would enclose the garage, provide storage, expand into a multi-purpose space for their daughter for the purpose of the next 4 years for medical school. But then for future purposes, obviously this would allow such a large family living in a small home additional living space for other members of the family in the future. And then the Heights also would like to prepare in the future for caring for elderly parents. So this allows them to maximize not only the existing structure, but to increase it for future use. The carport itself was built in 1955. The Heights have lived in this neighborhood for 34 years. They bought the home in 1991. Obviously, they did not know that it was not in conformance with code. The survey revealed that when we went to do some studies to do our architectural documents. Again, they desire to enclose and expand the existing structure. This would be a much more economical way to add usable space to the property for not only their adult daughter now, but for future use. The carport, having existed since 1955, would be cost prohibitive to tear down and reconstruct. And then the added cost of the new square footage as well. So this just allows for a much more practical use of what's existing. The structure being at the rear of the property, it's a very minimal structure. This is the west elevation. You can see there's, you know, a little bit of space behind, but they don't really have a big overhang in the back, and we would respect the current architecture of this and just extend it. It'll be a little bit taller, but it would not impede any further to the north. And we won't actually utilize the full side yard setback. It'll actually be a little bit further. I think I can go back to my site plan here. It'll be 3.7 feet from the side yard, so we wouldn't be taking up like the whole setback there. This is just a close-up of the north elevation of the existing fence at the north property line from the west side and the east side. So there's a little bit of utilization space back there that's existing already. And then this is a view to the north, just showing the existing fence. There's some vegetation on the other side of the fence, and then another existing accessory structure just on the other side. That concludes my presentation. I don't know if Mr. Height would like to add anything.
Good evening. Chris Height, 3209 Barcelona Street, Tampa, Florida, 33629, and I have been sworn in.
Thank you.
One of the things this will allow us to do is we have 2 storage units right now. We just got rid of one of them, but we were paying close to $400 a month for those storage units, and this would allow us to move a lot of that, just 34 years worth of and 38 years worth of marriage savings and things put together, be able to bring that back to our house and mitigate that cost for us. And then also, I think this would really be a good space for our other adult children as they get into their careers, and Lily moves on after med school. And then we both have 2 aging mothers that one's in assisted living now, but another one may need to come back and live with us at some point. and we have 6 people in a 994 square foot home. That's 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and this would give us extra space plus an additional bathroom.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
thank you.
Does that conclude your presentation?
It does.
Questions from the board?
I guess I do have some questions. Mr. Hester, since it's been existing for so long, it has to stay in its current form, otherwise it triggers
That is correct.
the
So
situation?
the purple structure, as you see today, that's considered a non-conforming structure. It can stay in the existing layout and
So they
stay
couldn't-
stagnant.
They couldn't enclose that.
If they stayed within the same footprint, it would be a question of if it increases the nonconformity. But with it being within the same footprint, that would be a call probably by my boss to, if it increases the nonconformity
I'm
of
just
that.
thinking if the additional 300 feet, 311 feet was just pushed forward 1.6 feet, you'd have even a little bit of an architectural something there, so it's just not a flat box. And it would not have to go through a variance, and you'd be able to get behind the new 311 feet. I have concerns, much like the pool, you have 1.4 feet. If you have a firefighter that's gotta get back there to fight a fire, can he get back there? Whereas if you didn't come to us and you can enclose the old one, put the new one in a position that meets all the code, well, then he can fit back there. And it's not up to my purview.
And the addition is brand spanking new. There's not a pad there, there aren't columns, there's nothing. So what you were trying to do is just make it align with the back of the existing.
It was actually the suggestion of our reviewer when we did our application to just show what we might propose for the future. But yes, obviously a reasonable stipulation would be that any new structure would meet the 3-foot setback. But we still need the variance to be able to enclose the existing structure, from what I understand, because it is non-conforming.
In the, I guess this continues over to maybe even legal, to vest the existing structure setback, are we able to do that within this notified variance?
You're saying approve the existing,
I'm saying, so she's now saying, you know, if we vest the 1.4 feet for the existing older one, and any addition will be the proper setback from there.
So we would condition it. We would condition it.
Correct, it would be conditioned only to vest the existing structure, not for the proposed addition. And then they could go back to the drawing board, slide that thing up with 1.6 feet, and then there's still room for people to get back there in case of any emergencies.
and I don't see anything on here that would preclude you from moving that forward a foot or two,
No, of course not.
which would be kind of a, nice relief from it just going straight across the back of that property. Basically, all the, it's more than 2/3 of the way across on your rear property line.
If we're able to do that, would you be opposed to a condition for the new structure to be pushed forward?
Does that include enclosing the carport?
No, we would.
It would be vesting the setback for the original carport.
Which would allow building permits for changing the existing.
Yes, but anything new built would
Yeah.
have to come forward.
We're not opposed to that at all. No, we're not.
Okay, well, there you
So,
go.
so,
But the question that I posed was, so they have to send out a notification to everyone
they?
that there's gonna be a variance, and they notify people per a site plan and per a request. I wanna make sure that we can still make this change within the noticed request to the neighborhood.
well, it appears to me that the request related to the setback for the entire accessory structure that's shown on the site plan, which includes both the existing carport of 289 square feet and then the proposed addition. So if it's the board's pleasure to just approve or vest the existing carport and then require any addition to be forward of that setback line or to meet the accessory structure setbacks, then
So
it's
the notice is good because we're actually reducing scope.
correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I don't think I
Okay.
have any other questions.
Okay, I don't either.
Speak for, I guess.
I'm sorry?
Do we not open?
I'm sorry, I forgot. Is there anyone here to speak for or against?
Jim Landers, and I live at 3208 West Palmyra Avenue, and I have been sworn in. My property is directly behind the property being discussed, and I'm the one most affected by the potential variance. It's interesting, the discussion that's going on. But I just want you to imagine standing on, and my biggest concern is the fullness of the variance. The idea of a 15-foot tall, 34-foot wide structure, 16 inches from my property line behind my house is significant and overwhelming. Thinking about standing on my patio and looking at that large structure potentially in the future, maybe not 5 months from now, maybe not 5 years, but in 25 years, someone coming in, a developer, and being able to use that variance to go up. But I've also reviewed the VRB guidelines, and I've heard it being discussed today. The first criteria is the hardship has to be unique and singular with respect to the property, with respect to the building thereon. This hardship is not unique or singular in nature. Of the 5 properties that surround this one, 4 have accessory structures, some as much as 6 inches from the property line. It's not singular, it's not unique, it's not different in any way possible. 2, the hardship has to result from the actions. It does not have to result from the actions of the applicant and shouldn't be self-created. What I keep hearing is this is a financial concern. Although I understand it and I'm sympathetic, I have to look out for my own property too. The hardship that they're presenting is one of finances and economics, and it's not anywhere located in the things. My concern is there are other reasonable alternatives. Move even the existing accessory structure forward, building on another part of the line. Cost prohibition is not an issue for a variance, especially ones that are short-term. Variance must not substantially interfere with health. I have my accessory structure is 5 feet from the property line. If I move, I have the possibility of moving it back 2 more feet by law. If I do that, we now have less than 6 feet between the 2 structures. It's a fire hazard. I have no plans to do it, but in the future we could. Also, if the applicants had to build a fence, mine's falling apart right now. Oop, 30 seconds. Okay. 10 inches from that property line. Again, stating what you said, emergency general maintenance. That structure's been existed for 70 years, no complaints, no claims of injustice. It's been consistently used over many decades and is only now a hardship in an effort to save money. The only injustice that may occur is the hardship that's going to affect my property and my property values. Am I done?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak for or against? You have a chance to rebut. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize there was somebody else.
Richard Emerson, 3408 West Cordelia Street, and yes, I have been sworn. What would be the architect on the project for the expansion for Heights? My wife as the agent for this. To this point of the fire hazard, it would be non-combustible materials that would be continued. The CMU masonry would be continued and enclosed for that back wall, so that that fire hazard between its existing structure and ours would not be a concern. It would be a non-combustible solid wall on the back of that. I do believe, your concession of pushing the new accessory structure to a conforming distance of 3 feet is acceptable. We had discussed that before, whether we went all the way across or not. So, to that end, I believe we are trying to be as sensitive as we can with the existing structures that we have, not in a disposable culture that we live in, knocking everything down just because it's inconvenient. I understand the tree had to go, but we're trying to preserve what we can here. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone else that needs to speak for or against? You have rebuttal time, I guess.
Yes. So the plan would be, again, to kind of keep with the conformance of the structure that they have on their home. This is kind of a sketch. We submitted this to record, a proposed sketch showing the existing structure and what we're proposing, which is, like I said, following in line with what is there. Obviously, that back, if we are to utilize the setback, the proper setback, then the elevations will change slightly. But this is a very non-imposing structure that it keeps with the character of what they have there, matching a little bit of the home, and again, enhancing. As far as, let's see. So, yes, as you can see, this is the existing accessory structure on Mr. Lander's property and the fence. And yes, the structure has been well maintained and has not really caused any issues for the neighbors. There would be taking care to put gutters across the back. But as you can see, there's not only the fence, but there are some vegetation there that the offense of not being able to access the property is not just specific to our property. So even with the addition, there would be a way to get around if there was a fire issue or something like that. And as Mr. Landers mentioned, there are adjacent properties that have very similar situations, but specific to this site, the property was purchased in 1991 by the family. They've lived there for 34 years. The structure's been there since 1955, and it is not practical to tear it down when you can utilize it and reuse it and repurpose it for future use for the family. And again, trying to be very sensitive to their neighbors. That was something that they brought up from the very beginning. The structure is a low, very minimalist structure, and so it does, and it would basically just conform with what's going on in this neighborhood. People are very tightly knit in this community. And we want to definitely be respectful of Mr. Lander's property as well. As far as the value, we don't necessarily see that as a detriment to his property. And then the comment about the 15-foot structure, honestly, you're moving something 1 foot 8 inches. If we tear that down, we can build a 15-foot structure. That is not our desire. And then the last comment was that somebody in the future could come tear this down. According to the approval of the variance, once the structure is demolished, the variance goes away. So if we tear it down, we build something 3 feet from the property line, then we're going to have a much more imposing roof line and blocking Mr. Lander's property, which is not the desire.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. You guys?
I mean, there's, like everybody said, there's many residences in the neighborhood that have similar carport storage areas that have been
Yeah, I mean, look right
enclosed
there.
or not enclosed, that are as close, like they said, on the property line, 6 inches. I think vesting the existing carport that's been there for 75 years or 100 years is probably not a huge problem. I like the fact that they're willing to move the new structure forwards and keep it in line with the existing property and not make a giant imposing structure with huge roofs. So
Absolutely.
I think I can be behind the modified variance request.
I think it was an excellent compromise, and I'd be in favor of it as well.
Ready?
Sure.
All right. I move the variance request for case VRB 25-64, located, for the property located at 3209 West Barcelona Street. as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in rear yard setback with encroachment from 3 feet for the accessory structure from 3 feet to 1.4 feet.
Investing only
That's next. With the encroachment for easing gutters, with the following conditions. That any new portion that's added on to the structure be at a minimum of 3 foot off of the property line to meet existing, or to meet the new code.
You have a motion and a second?
Second.
Oh,
yeah.
I apologize.
That said, variance as condition be granted based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record, and the public hearing for an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty, consider the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that it's an existing, very old structure that predates the zoning it was applied over it.
Okay, now we have a motion?
We have a motion.
And do we have a second still? Okay. Any further discussion? If not, we can call the question. All those in favor of the motion as stated signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed likewise. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much for your presentation. And unless we have any further business, we stand adjourned.
Sounds like rain.